So, we saw Fantastic Four today, and,
Oh.
it's a movie.
It's definitely a movie. I could sort of tell that.
Okay, I was looking forward to this movie a lot. Like, I thought it would be actually finally a good Fantastic Four movie. Like, the trailers actually looked pretty good, I thought. But then the reviews came out, and I was like, it really can't be that bad. So we went to see it, and it is.
Well, a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a director officially disowning his own movie.
Yeah.
Those are bad signs to begin with, but
This is the lowest rated Marvel movie ever on Rotten Tomatoes, even less than Howard the Duck and Elektra. So,
I mean, and the worst thing is, the first act and even the second act really are passable.
yeah.
They're pretty good. But then you realize it's not building up to anything.
Yeah.
The second act, you're like, well, this isn't good, but at least it's building up to something bigger. But it turns out it's not.
Yeah.
It wasn't building up to anything. The end just happens.
Yeah.
There is no build up. It's really the pacing, the narrative structure.
Yeah. The narrative structure is basically, company wants to travel between dimensions, so they get Reed Richards in there, and then there's Sue Storm and Johnny Storm who are there because they're like, Johnny wants to get his
They never
car.
really explain that.
And then the Thing, Ben Grimm just comes there because Reed wants him there.
Oh, and also Victor Von Doom is with them.
He's actually not really a blogger, he's a hacker of sorts, and he's got this weird thing. I don't quite know why he's there, but...
They never explain what's happened to him. He's just in trouble with someone about something.
And yeah, that's the main problem with this movie. It doesn't explain anything. Like, it doesn't even explain, after they get their powers, there's, a year gap in between, which is not explained.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, you can...
Well, a good superhero movie would show the Fantastic Four developing their powers together, coping with what they've just been through, getting ready to live together and live with their powers. But this is not a good superhero movie. Instead, it skips to 1 year later.
Yes.
Without even an action sequence, nothing. And 1 year later, the final action sequence just happens.
Yeah. And even then, it's not climactic at all. We really, at the end of the movie, I just asked myself, what was this all for? Because the Fantastic Four go through the portal, they come back and they get their powers, and then a year passes and they've learned how to use their powers, but we didn't see it. We just have to take the movie's word for it that they've gotten it. And, it just doesn't even explain a lot. And then suddenly the final action scene, the Fantastic Four are all together for some reason. And when they're transported...
The only time they're all together, actually, with their powers.
Yeah, they're just transported to the place where they have to fight Dr. Doom, and then, and then they fight him, and then it just ends. I don't even know. And not to mention how the dialogue is supposedly written by the guy who wrote X-Men Days of Future Past, which I haven't seen, but you can probably vouch for me on this. I don't think that this dialogue is the same quality.
I think that was a stellar superhero movie. Really good movie. And the director's good. He directed Chronicle, which is also
Chronicle's a great movie. But
movie. Yeah.
But this movie, his direction is just so... I don't get it. I don't even know if he publicly apologized on Twitter for making this movie, and he said that Fox messed up a lot of stuff. I read a lot of reports saying that Fox really messed with his plan, and a lot of the stuff was cut out because they didn't want it for some reason.
Let's just hope that's true.
Because I want to like this guy as a director. He made a great movie, but then he made this. So his career is like that, and
this movie is really Fox said, we need to make the most cliche, cookie-cutter superhero movie that fits into this really well-defined, like I said, cookie-cutter formula. But then they screwed that up.
People get their powers, then the government wants to weaponize them, and then they say, no, we're going to do things our way. End. That's literally it. And it's literally one review I actually saw that the actor describes me. It's a 100-minute trailer for something that's
Never gonna happen.
Because this movie is bombing at the box office, and it's gotten terrible reviews.
Oh, well, I think one of the favorite things is we went, we
Yeah.
live near, both of us live near a very large theater,
Yeah.
multiplex.
So we went there,
And oh, sorry.
it was playing in, like, the smallest little theater, and
In
like,
the basement.
yeah.
That's where they play indie movies. This is the big budget superhero movie of the summer besides Ant-Man. It's only been out a week and it's already playing there.
It hasn't even been out a week. It's been out 2 days.
I don't know what to say. I don't know.
Like, and the CGI effects are really not that good. Like, in the trailer, they didn't look that bad, but when you see the Human Torch up front, he looks so weird. The thing
doesn't look like a human.
The thing doesn't look that bad, I don't think, but he just looks like the Hulk, only orange rocks instead of the Hulk. And when Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, is like stretching his arm, it looks like not much better than the 2005 Tim Story movies.
I think one of the worst parts is it's not even terrible enough to have fun with, like, its campiness, like the 1994 Fantastic Four movie, right? Which is just god awful, and you can enjoy it for being terrible. But this is
it's just so
bad.
It's just so mediocre that it's bad.
Yeah.
Like this actually has a lower Rotten Tomato score than Batman and Robin, if you can believe it.
The one. Well, I'm gonna go out and say this. As little as I want to defend this movie, I don't think that's just. I think Batman and Robin is much worse. But the one thing that this movie's done that I can kind of thank it for is it's given me a new appreciation for the old Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah. The thing about this movie is there was so much that could have been done. As I was watching this, I was like, that could have been done so much better. Why didn't they? Like, the cast. I can see these guys as a Fantastic Four.
Great cast.
Like, and when they were actually fighting, I kind of felt like they actually had chemistry and could have done well, but there's barely any of it in it. There's one action scene at the end, and even then, it's so short and anticlimactic. And Doctor Doom is a chrome mummy who...
He doesn't have any motivation.
He's just... And he has telekinesis.
It would be one thing if he was rightfully angry at them for abandoning him in a different dimension. But he's not. He doesn't have a motivation. He just wants to destroy the world for no reason.
This was just really boring movie also. Like, I wasn't having fun. Like, there were a few scenes where I was like, that could have worked, especially
the
in
origin stuff.
Like, the first act, I'd say, was okay-ish. It wasn't great, but I at least could see sort of a direction they were going in.
Something materializing from that.
But the problem is, the second act, it jumps too far, and, you know, there's not enough superheroing. It's like a problem that the 2005 one had a little bit, where they don't really do that much. They're just there, they're learning to use their powers, and...
But in some ways, this is the opposite, because you see them before they have their powers, and then you see them after they have their powers. You don't see any of the in-between.
And it just felt like it went on way too long. Like, this is only 100 minutes, as I said before, but it felt pretty long.
Longer.
Because it was just really dull overall. Like, honestly, I really wanted to like this movie, and there were some parts where I was like, that was okay-ish. No. It was a very, very poor superhero movie. I don't even think it's, like, I haven't really seen all of Batman and Robin or, like, Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, but this has lower Rotten Tomatoes scores than both of those. I actually think this is the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score for any superhero movie ever.
I want to go on record again by saying I think Batman and Robin is much worse.
But I don't know. It's just a bad superhero movie. It's probably worse than the 2005 and 2007 ones. I don't even know if
in my mind.
Don't even know if it's worse than the 90s movies. Haven't seen that one, so.
Well, but those are terrible enough to enjoy.
This one's just mediocre.
Just bad, yeah.
I'm curious to see if they ever make, like, a director's cut of this, if we actually see some good parts.
No, that would be interesting.
Like if we actually, or maybe if somehow the sequel gets made, they learn from their mistake. But
But we need to remember, right, that the director could be lying. This really could all be his fault, and he just wants to pin it on Fox. But
I don't know.
we don't know.
Either way, we have one message to you, Fox. Give the Fantastic Four to Marvel Studios so they can do these guys justice.
I mean, you've done great with the X-Men movies. You're doing good. Keep going.
You don't need
Apocalypse looks cool.
You don't need the Fantastic Four. What are they doing for you? Barely anything.
Well, what would you... Oh,
I have a little more to say. Like, I mean, the movie looks okay-ish, except for the CGI, which doesn't look that great. And, again, the writing is not very good. It's kind of cringeworthy at times.
Some really bad dialogue in there.
Yeah,
especially when they're trying to find their end... their name, trying to come up with a name.
Yeah, at the very end, they're like, what should we name ourselves? And then the thing, like, I guess we can say it, and then he was like, well, that was fantastic. Like, say that again.
There are no spoilers. There's nothing to spoil.
Yeah, the trailers, if you see the trailers, that's what you see. Company wants to master interdimensional travel. They get these guys, they go through the portal, and then they come back, they're the Fantastic Four, then the government wants to weaponize them, then they say no, then they go fight Dr. Doom.
They don't even really say no, though. They don't do anything.
This movie is built up to something that's not going to happen, kind of like The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I haven't... I have not seen that yet, but I'm going to.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2, that's another trailer, but at least that had a compelling villain.
You'd say this is worse than The Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know, I'd put it up. I'd say, I really hate Thor the Dark World. I would say, I think Thor the Dark World is probably as bad as this, in my opinion. I imagine most people would not. Most people would think this is much worse.
I think this was worse than Thor Dark World, but honestly, this is one of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen, just because of how much wasted potential it is, how bad the dialogue is, how disappointingly short and lacking of stuff it has, and just how...
It's terrible.
It just barely anything is to me. I mean, it wasn't painful. It wasn't that painful to sit through. It was just kind of boring. Like, that's the one thing I can say. It's not painful. It's just...
There were like 3 people in the theater. They were all laughing. I don't know. It's kind of sad when you see a superhero movie in a theater reserved for indie movies 2 days after it's come out.
It was cool to see the Deadpool trailer, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think, well, let's see what Fox does with Deadpool.
I don't think they're going to mess that up, but I don't know.
The trailer looks good. But I haven't seen the Red Man. Well, anyways, what percentage would you...
You know, I've been thinking about this, and to be honest, I haven't really come up with a definitive percentage, but for me, I'm thinking somewhere around 20-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe 10, maybe 15. I think maybe I'll just go on merciful and give this maybe 17%. It has a hint of being good, scattered throughout the first act. Second onwards, meh. The final act scene could have been cool, but it was way too short and anticlimactic. You?
I guess, well, I mean, as bad as I think it was, there's nothing that I can put my fingers on that's particularly objectionable. So I guess I'd need to give it also a 20 or 15, somewhere in that range.
It's all 17.
Yeah, I'll say 17 also.
Okay, well, what a disappointment. Most disappointing movie of the year for me. And this is probably going to be on a top 10 worst list at the end of the year, which I'm going to get you and a friend to do with me.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. So, yeah.
See Ant-Man instead.
See Ant-Man again. I actually want to see it again with a friend who hasn't seen it yet. And I like, want to then see Mission Impossible. And then good movies. So, that's a thing. We're just gonna go now. Adios, home slices.